Good morning, Rabotai. Welcome to Breakfast in the Class. Breakfast in the Class today and learning for this entire week is dedicated by the Torah Center Gold Dawn of the Aronow family in loving memory of Nishmat Yosef Mordechai ben Yisrael Hayim V'Hana. Number one. Number two, also for the Fuah Shleiman successful operation for Hava Bat Yafa, and out of the Be'ezat Hashem for Fuah Shleima for Nisim ben Salha. The year of Breakfast in the Class dedicated to loving memory of Nishmat Ruth or Fali Bat Adela, sponsored by her family. I need to get back to that person about the 3 months. Also wants to know. Also, Breakfast in the Class sponsored by Simon Abraham. Yup! Dedicated in honor of his friend and best friend, Simon Nissim, whose son Yitzi got married Tuesday evening. And what a wedding it was. Ishtabach Shemo. Mabruk to the Nissim and the Asher families. Should be zocheh to experience and have joy through Nisim. Osher, Ashar is happiness, and Nisim is miracles. We should be zocheh, and through you, all of Am Yisrael should be zocheh to experience the happiness and joy of miracles. God knows we need it after the last 24 hours. And we did experience a wonderful Nisim. We'll see in just a minute, talk a little bit about it. Continued health for Chana Batzim Fega. Breakfast in the Class dedicated in honor of Lorraine and Amin Ajmi for the birth of their daughter, Alice Ajmi, the Ajmi family. Mazal Tov Mabruk, congratulations. She has very big shoes to fill if her name is Alice Ajmi. God bless, Be'ezat Hashem. Also sponsored anonymously, dedicated loving memory of Nishmat Esther ben Haim Yosef B'Fega. Be'ezat Hashem, we should be zocheh to celebrate only semachot together. We're zocheh also to have a very international crowd here with us this morning listening to Breakfast in the Class. We'd like to welcome you from whatever countries you may be coming, from whatever states you may be coming, to sit with us and to learn some words of Torah. Okay, my friends, I want to say as a way of opening this, Chazak u'Baruch. Thank you so much to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Yesterday we had a very difficult day, and it was challenging on many, many levels. To see what we saw yesterday, to see the children returned in caskets, paraded around like they were some sort of a prize. This morning on the news, Palestinian media outlets are interviewing the person who kidnapped them on October 7th, like a hero. Wonderful. You're a very strong man. He killed a toddler and a 9-month-old. 4 years old, 9 years old. Well done. He kept them alive for 1 month. So all the celebration of the birthdays and all of that, they were already dead. Who knows where Shiri Bibas is? To return a unidentified body, which is then proves to be forensically not the person you said you were going to return, is just the height of cruelty, of deception, of being a death cult. And that's what we witnessed. Celebrations as this happened yesterday. Meanwhile, on the same day, we get to see how Hamas is honoring the ceasefire. The deal that they made, that we returned actual terrorists for, is an unidentified woman. She is none of the captives. Let's just be clear about that. It's not that it's not Shiri, but it's someone else. It's none of the captives. Nobody that was taken on October 7th that we know. All right? So these are a dishonorable, murderous cult that doesn't know how to keep their words. That on the day that they violate the ceasefire agreement, they also violate the ceasefire by taking credit for planting bombs on what we know to be now as at least 5 buses, 3 of which went off with nobody in them. The miracle of having someone so dumb that they set it for 9 a.m. instead of 9 p.m. is just something straight out of like the Megillat Esther, something straight out of Kriyat Yam Suf. Unbelievable. So, as far as I'm concerned, what ceasefire? Hashem yimkom damam, be'ezat Hashem. But what struck me was yesterday when they asked the chief of police, how could 5 bombs get on 5 different buses? How could that be? And the chief of police said, oh, that's not our fault. The Shin Bet is supposed to be worried about, this is terrorism, so this is the Shin Bet's problem. And also it's the IDF's problem. but that's not the police's problem. I mean, I think that after you just had 5 buses with 5 bombs on them, with a plan to blow up the light rail as well, I would think you might say, we'll look into it. But this immediate shift of responsibility to somebody else, not my problem, this is someone else's mistake, is, I think, perhaps the loudest message that we receive from Parashat Mishpatim. You know, a person might think that their responsibility ends with themselves. That achrayut, responsibility, ends with yourself. Says Mishpatim, you're responsible for your eved, for your worker. You're responsible for your wife. You're responsible for your animal's damage. Your problem, your fault. You're responsible if you lose your temper. In a fight, you're responsible for yourself when you're in a rage of anger. You bear responsibility. This idea of a 360-degree taking of responsibility for everything in my sviva, instead of saying that responsibility belongs to everybody else, is the story of Mishpatim. Now, why am I sharing that? Because I believe that we are a generation that does not understand how to do this and how to say this. It was interesting to me. You know, in Israel, post October 7th, you had members of the IDF, members of the Defense Department, standing up and saying, this happened on my watch. This was a failure of security, of this, of that, and I hereby resign my post. This is my fault. I think, was it Herzli Alevi? It was only a couple of days ago. Went and said this to a family. Took complete responsibility and ownership. Now, it wasn't necessarily him that was sleeping at the desk. It wasn't necessarily him that ignored. It was when he spoke to the women that were returned, the Tatzpaniot, the ones that their job is to watch the border. It wasn't necessarily him that did that and made that decision, but he owned the failure. Why am I sharing this? You know, you sit in a world here today where the youth point fingers at the adults for not raising them right, for not having enough love, or not having enough discipline, or not having enough patience, or not having enough understanding of a generation that they can't understand. While the adults are pointing their fingers at the youth. Who are these kids? The most entitled kids, TikTok generation. It winds up being a human version of the Spider-Man meme. Yeah? Everybody pointing fingers, everybody else. Well, when the father and the son are in the same room, and they got tired of pointing fingers at each other, no problem. They together point fingers at the school. It's the school's failure. They didn't do this. The school, you can be sure, don't worry, have no fear, has also got in on the action and says, listen, if we had real partners in the parents, and the school is blaming the parents and the children. Are you seeing where this is going? The school, the parents, and the children will point at the rabbi. The rabbi will point at the school, the children, and the parents. Are you with me? Where do we need to go? And everybody will point at social media. Are you with me here? Now, are any of them wrong? No. They're all right. This is a failure on the level of a child, of the young person. It's a failure on the level of the parent. It's a failure on the level of the schooling. It's a failure on the level of the rabbi. It's a failure on the level of society. It's a failure on the level of social media. So they're all right, but they're also all wrong. Because not one of them, not that they've not been willing to take 100%. No one's taking 1%. No one's taking 1%. And in truth, everybody bears some responsibility. Now, modern virtue signalers will raise their head and say, well, they were just a child. The child can't be at fault. It's not the child's fault. Correct. But I have a little secret for you. Every flipping person in this world was once a child, so it can't be any of their faults. It wasn't the child's fault when he was a child. The parent was also a child. Why are you blaming him? He was a child. Yeah, but not when he became a parent. So you went through and you had difficult parents. I feel very badly for you. You had a bad school that didn't understand. I feel very badly for you. You went to a rabbi, the rabbi didn't treat you or answer you or support you. I feel very bad for you. But so what? So what? You know why? Because now what? Now what? Let's say you're right, and it's everyone's fault but yours. Your anger issue is not your issue. It's you saw it in your parents' house, and maybe you learned at school they didn't take care of the bullies, so you got anger issues because you had a bully. It wasn't dealt with. You're right. You're right. All that correct. But at some point, don't you wake up and say, okay, now what? Now do I want to live the rest of my life as an angry person? Now do I want to beat my kids? Is that what I want? I want to be verbally abusive to everyone in my family. I want to be that guy. I want to be the person that everyone steers clear of because they know there's no point in arguing with you because you can never win an argument with this person. That's what you want? That's what you have. You don't like it? Change it. The whole of the Parashat Mishpatim says, you know what a Ben Torah is supposed to do? He's supposed to say, I'm responsible. I'm responsible for everything. Not just me. Now, the animal can't decide what to do. Well, okay. Did you build a fence around it? Did you do everything that you could have? By the way, if you did everything you could have done, and it was honest, you'd be patur. If you actually took responsibility, you'd be absolved. But that's what we need to see. So my friends, I have a question, and I feel this question is a powerful question. What if everything in your life was your fault? And I use this word so intentionally. Because responsibility and fault are not the same word. Something might not be your fault, but it might still be your responsibility. Your child is going through something very difficult. It's not your fault. You didn't do it. You didn't cause it. Does that mean it's not your responsibility? You see how these two words are not the same? And if that's the case, so I like to ask people, what would you do if you looked at your life and said everything is, not merely my fault, but everything is my responsibility? I have an angry wife. Not my fault. It's her fault. I'm not saying I have an angry wife. Anyone who's met my wife will know I do not have an angry wife. Right? It's not my fault. Okay, but what are you going to do about it? There's a problem in the community. What are you going to do about it? Never in my life did I ever think I would get a mazzer platter And on the mazeh platter, delivered to my home, is one word that you don't usually see on a mazeh platter. Fentanyl. We'd like to invite you to a meeting of the rabbis to discuss the tragedy of fentanyl in the community. The lives it's taken, steps we could take to... I'm looking at the lachmajin and there's fentanyl on the... What kind of... Now I can promise you, I didn't cause the problem. I imported no drugs laced with fentanyl into this country that I'm aware of. And yet, this is a level of responsibility. You bear responsibility. You have a friend that's going through a problem. It's not your fault, but it's your responsibility. Your obligation flows in Yahadut not from culpability, but from ability. If you have the koach to be able to change something, even if you didn't make the mess, it's your responsibility to do so. In Judaism, we see a person's wealth as being a pikadon. What does a pikadon mean? It means like something, an object that was left by you almost as collateral. That's what a pikadon is. Someone gave money to you. They deposited money with you. Where do we find this idea? When it comes to tzedakah, a person makes $1,000. Okay? $900 of the $1,000, who's it belong to? You. The remaining $100, 10%. So most people see it as, I have to give 10% to Maaser. But Judaism doesn't see it that way. Judaism sees that the 10% that is by you never belonged to you, nor will it ever belong to you. Seeing as that's the case, we understand that God is literally leaving some money with you for poor people. If that's how you see Ma'aser, could you imagine, Rav Shach used to say, that 10% is also relevant when it comes to a person's time. He used to tell the young Avrechim in the Kolel, he would tell them, 10% of your time should be going around, visiting Israeli families and asking them to put their kids into a yeshiva, so that the kid should know about his Jewish heritage. Crazy that you have to do that in a country run by Jews. But that is the case. Yesterday, I posted a clip of a woman whose name is Shir Sigal, where she talks about her father when he came home. She said, in the hellhole that he was in, he found HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And you know how he found God? Because he, for a minute, thought to himself, what does it mean to be part of Am Yisrael? And he came home, she said, and he was saying blessings on food. He found his faith in small prayers. He came home to her saying, Borei minei mezonot. He came home to her saying, Shema Yisrael. She said, he never said Borei mezonot in his life. He never said Shema Yisrael in his life. And now he's saying it. When he got out and they rejoiced, they were going to have their first Friday night dinner together. And she asked her father, what can we make you for Friday night dinner? They've been dreaming of this meal. What they're going to make, what it would be like to spend Shabbat together as a family again. And she asked the father, and she says, I thought he would tell me some dish that he'd missed, some good challah. And he said to his daughter, all I want there to be on Friday night, all I need for there to be on the table is a kippah and kos lekiddush, and a cup to make kiddush. Ya Ani. I just want you to recognize this idea that there are people in Israel that don't know Shema Yisrael. They don't know what it means. They never said it before. So Rav Shach used to tell the young people learning, studying in yeshivot, go out, tell the people they should put their kid in a dati leumi, chardal, doesn't matter, whatever, something that they should know what it means to be Jewish in the Jewish state. Bar minan. And they would donate 10% of their time and go door knocking. My friends, what about 10% of your emotional support? We owe that to other people. This idea that there's maaser on your money, maaser on your time, maaser on your care, maaser on your support, maaser on your phone calls. I got a message only 2 days ago. Is anyone available? There's an old lady who has nobody left in this world. She's sitting Shiva alone near Monsey. Who's like Am Yisrael? Random people are going to knock at the door, walk into an empty house with this old woman sitting on a chair by herself. And they're going to sit there and ask her to tell them about the person she lost. And I could see the house in my mind's eye. There's mazer platters without the word fentanyl on it. Okay, there's cookies, there's fruits, nothing that she put out. This is Am Yisrael. This is our responsibility. To love, to take care of one another. To cry with one another. To shed tears for Kfir, for Ariel, for Shiri, for Oded, for all the people upstairs that it says on the wall. And all of the Chayalim. This is our job. Our job is to care. Our responsibility is to be there, not for something we did, but for something we have the ability to do. You have the ability to cry. Crying is free. Caring is free. Only yesterday morning, or yesterday afternoon, on the day that we got back their bodies, a young man who finally finished his conversion, who finally got his Brit Milah at an older age, took the Jewish name Kfir Ariel on the day that their bodies were returned. We have a young man who takes the name Kfir Ariel. It doesn't bring them back. But let me ask you, what does Yarden Bibas feel when he gets every one of these videos sent to him? Am echad, lev echad. Everybody is wearing orange. Yesterday I gave a Torah class about tefillah, and a bunch of ladies turned up wearing an orange sweater, an orange. Now again, did you solve anything because you wore an orange sweater? Because you made your social media profile orange? You didn't solve anything. But you cared enough to do something, to mark it in some way. I have a family member, and I was talking at the time with them about doing a cold plunge. I don't know if anyone's here has done it. Amazing. Anyway, one of the people that was sitting at the table says, oh, you know, my husband takes cold showers. I was like, oh, great, you take cold showers, maybe you want to come, we're going to do the cold plunge. I guess you're into it if you take the, he's like, no, it's not the, and then his wife let slip that he's been taking cold showers since October 7th. Hasn't had a warm shower, hot shower since October 7th. That's taking achrayut. Looking around and seeing not what's my fault, what do I have to do, but what can I do? When someone is struggling, when someone needs to get a job, when someone needs a shidduch to try and introduce. All these things. That's achrayut, that's the Parashat of Mishpatim. And I love the idea that a parasha that talks all about your responsibility, not for yourself, is called Mishpat, which means law. This is the law, the letter of the law. You're not doing something kind or gracious or special. You're doing what a human being ought to do. That's how a Jew sees the world. May Hashem bless us to be those people in the lives of our family, those people in the lives of our kehilot, of our family, of our communities, those people in the lives of our nation, of Am Yisrael, and those people really in the entire world. U'me'irin et ha'olam, Torah u'ma'asim tovim, chol melechet avodat haboreh. Baruch Hanai le'olam, amen ve'amen.